Welcome. This is the 116 Life on Holy Culture Radio, Sirius Channel 154. I'm literally smiling from ear to ear because I'm here with the amazing DJ Mykael V.
Yes, sir.
And the amazing SVP of Marketing and Digital, Dee Diaz in the building.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here. Having so much fun already.
And y'all got me laughing. I'm still trying to recuperate.
Before we went live, we were talking about the origins of your original name and like code switching and being embraced in Colorado. How you were saying?
Yes.
Can you just run it back a little bit for us?
Okay.
So where
Just go back 5-10 minutes. Okay.
What is your full name and where are you from and how are you here today?
Love that. Okay, so originally I was born in Venezuela in 1992, December 2nd.
Ooh.
My legal name is Diana Carolina Diaz Nava. So Diana is like that's what they called me in Spanish. That's what my family calls me. And then moved to Colorado. And what we were talking about is just like the origin of why I became Dee Diaz.
The Dee Diaz.
The Dee Diaz.
Don't you ever get it twisted.
And
For sure.
yeah, I think it was like around middle school. So all throughout like 3rd to I guess like 7th grade, in class I would always be like, it's not. I just didn't like the way that it was pronounced Diana. I didn't like that.
Because would you say it's not culturally? That's not how you guys.
No, I mean my name is Diana in Spanish, right? And so I
gotcha.
just didn't like the name Diana, which I was just talking about. Like I feel like I was named after Princess Diana, and now looking back, I love that I was named after Princess Diana.
Very fitting.
Despite whatever. I'm not gonna get into the royals, but I will say I feel like
You're
Diana
royal priesthood.
she's iconic.
Yeah.
She is iconic. And so now I appreciate the name a little bit more in the way that it's pronounced in English. I don't know if I'll ever go back and officially, go by Diana or Deanna, but I think about it here and there.
So legally is it written Deanna or is it like D?
Legally, it's Deanna.
Okay.
Well, it's
I love
Diana.
it. It's a great
In
depends on
English,
depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
If you're here in the great United States of America.
And then I became.
Heck yeah, brother.
Here we go, guys. We're live
On a tangent already.
The 116 Live. Welcome to the.
Here we are.
Welcome to basically the water cooler conversations.
No, literally.
Records.
It's true.
So
then it was like in middle school that people started to just like, they were like, if you go by Deanna, friends started to call me D. Some people try to do like D, and I thought that was dumb. So then like I was like, if you're gonna like give me a nickname, we gotta go like D.
Just one D.
Yeah.
Get out of my laboratory.
What is going on? Okay, so I have a question for you. How
yeah.
old were you when you moved to America from Venezuela?
I was 8 years old.
Whoa.
Sheesh.
Okay.
Okay.
So
That's
I
actually
remember a
great.
lot.
How did it feel to grow up in a country like that? And I say that not disrespectfully. I say that because Venezuela is known,
Well, back then it wasn't. So
fire. Okay, great.
Yeah, I think my mom, I mean, shout out to my mom. She, first of all, being an immigrant, like she was a single mom at the time. She moved out here in 2001 with me and my brother to Denver, Colorado, of all places.
Yeah.
Talk about
Colorado.
like culture
What
shock.
was that?
I don't know. It's like a thing where like immigrants, I just feel like sometimes immigrant families just choose like the craziest places to move.
Yeah. Did they anything about like Miami or like?
Yeah, I wish it would have been Miami. She got accepted, so she got a scholarship to DU for her master's degree. So that's why we ended up going. But it was so different. There's no Venezuelans out in Colorado. There's a lot of like if you're Latino, there's a lot of Mexican influence. But like culture, like even that's very different.
Yeah.
So I don't remember what your question was. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying like how from what you can remember, how was it growing up in Venezuela before you came to the States?
The Venezuela that we know and talk about now is not how it was, back then. I think, Chavez was elected in the 90s, and I think my mom just knew. She just had a feeling.
She had an instinct, like
she really did, and shout out to her. And so we got out of there before things really started to go downhill. But now it is devastating to think about. Like a lot of our family is very blessed that we have been able to, for the most part, almost everybody in my family has been able to leave and find a new life and start a new life in different countries around the world. But I do still have some family out there. My dad's out there, and the country, all the young people have left, you know?
Really?
So you think about like what it requires to really keep a society functioning and growing. Unfortunately, there's just a lot of
y'all dipped out.
Yeah.
That's crazy. My parents actually intersected with Venezuela for my immigrant story, which is kind of random. So my mom and dad came in from Liberia for school. Civil War broke out, couldn't go back. And my dad got a job in the 80s as an engineer, and he didn't have his green card. Back then, people would still hire certain people at professional grade.
Yeah. And
he didn't have his green card, and his manager was, man, this is the favor of the Lord. I'm sure you probably got stories in your life where the manager loved my dad so much as an employee, he set up a way for him to go get his green card. So he had to travel out of the country, did like a little post in Venezuela, him and my mom, for like a couple weeks randomly. Yeah, and they had to come back into the country, which made somehow the green card process now easy to apply for. You have to like come back in.
Yeah.
So my dad, this person paid for my mom and dad to have like a mini vacation in Venezuela.
That's amazing.
So like,
when was that?
This is like, this is just 80s, 81. And I always
that would have been like
okay.
I think it would have been like a great time.
Okay.
In Venezuela.
They said they had a great time. And so we've always had a picture.
Thriving.
We had like a keepsake of Venezuela in my house growing up. I always remember like a little keepsake of Venezuela. So when you say nobody knows the country, I'm like, no, I know Venezuela like a little bit for that.
Of course.
So you got here at 8. You're in Colorado. You're growing up. I mean, was there like, what was it like growing up in Denver, Colorado? When you said pretty much but not many representation there. How was that for you?
It was. I mean, you know, when you're 8 years old, you remember your memories from being that young. And so I very well remember my time in Venezuela. And then I also, you know, but it's easy to adapt at that time also, like as well. So, you know, I went the ESL route.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, definitely culture shock, like, but in a good way. I mean, I remember like, my mom said that we could play outside, and that was like mind blowing to me because in Venezuela, you know, even at that time, crime was a huge thing. Like you couldn't just go outside. Everything was gated constantly. So, you know, riding a bike or going outside, that's not a thing that you did without an adult.
For sure.
So I remember like, we got to just play around our neighborhood, and that was shocking to me.
Welcome to America.
I have independence.
Facts.
Yeah. Culture shock moment.
Yes, give me one. Give us a
dumb.
story.
This is so dumb.
Yeah.
I don't know if.
No, it's all good.
You probably want to cut this out.
Come on, 116 Life. Come on, y'all.
I didn't. Yeah. Okay. You know how like when you go to like other countries and like not everywhere, but a lot of places, you're not supposed to flush the toilet paper.
Yeah.
Literally. Didn't know that you could flush the toilet paper here for like 2 years.
That's
crazy. That was mind blowing to me. That's a really stupid. That's that.
I totally get that.
I think with that, how growing up in Denver and saying like, you know what I'm saying, like suburban neighborhood, how did you like keep your Latinidad and like keep that alive?
That's a great question.
And find your identity as a Latina in a predominantly like white neighborhood or school?
Didn't.
Yeah.
For a long time. I think, like I said, you learn to adapt, and I've figured out how to really blend into the environment that I was in. And so I think like, honestly, like I learned English really quickly. Really? I was thriving in school pretty early on. We were in Aurora when we first moved there. So my first few years, I was in a more diverse part of the Denver metro area. And then a few years later, moved to the suburbs of Denver, which made it even harder because then I was really surrounded by a lot of, you know, it was primarily white. And so if you notice, like, I mean, I lost my accent very quickly, and I still speak Spanish, but one of my biggest regrets is like, I remember, I think at some point in 4th or 5th grade, I came home and I just like stopped speaking Spanish because I just so badly wanted to fit in. And so unfortunately, I started to lose a lot of my Spanish, or I just like didn't conversate enough for it to develop to a place where I can articulate in a way that I would want to articulate the way that we're talking right now. I can have a fluent conversation, of course, but you know, if I want to talk about like work and like in more professional
Casual.
terms,
Okay. Oh, okay.
it's difficult for me. And I do wish I hadn't neglected that part of my Latinidad so early on.
And so, speaking of that upbringing, like obviously, you know, with the 1-6 Life being about faith, music, and culture, what was your intersection like with faith? Like, was it like a Christian background, home? Like, at what point did you not come to Jesus? At what point did it like come alive in your life? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What's your salvation story?
So I come from a Catholic background. My family.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, if you're from Venezuela or anywhere in South America,
Very
most
Catholic.
likely, there's, you know, you're coming from a Catholic family. And I think like throughout our teenage years, I wasn't necessarily a practicing Catholic. So I would say that I didn't really know the Lord. I understood a lot of the traditions and different aspects of it, and I was familiar with the person of Jesus, but not necessarily living it out in any way. So, you know, I had my seasons in high school. Probably saw way too much of the world pretty young, pretty early on. And then I believe at some point my sophomore year was actually when I became a believer, and it was through. I think I had gotten in enough trouble at that time.
So you was troublemaker type vibe.
I was a troublemaker. Oh yeah.
Same.
Really? That was.
Yeah.
I think we talked about it before. Yeah. I'm like the anomaly.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I was
your dad was a
preacher. It was just it was none of that. There was no like room to be like don't embarrass my dad. It wasn't allowed. In my
I think for
household.
me, I didn't grow up Christian, so there was none of that standard of like what you're speaking of. I think for me, it was just like
we out here.
I just felt very misunderstood. I don't know if you can feel like I felt like I was very misunderstood. Very like. Especially when I moved to Jersey, same thing. It was a predominantly white situation, and I kind of my name's Mykael, and people were like, "Oh, hey, Michael," like you know what I'm saying, like little microaggressions like that, where I kind of felt like I had to like be very like y'all not about to.
So you punched a few.
100%.
But I don't want to say a name, but yeah.
But yeah.
It's weird being a Latino.
A few Chads, a few Joshes. Sorry, Mykael.
No, you're good. I think it's weird being a Latino in predominantly white spaces because we vary shape, sizes, colors, dialects,
1000%.
and sometimes we blend in, sometimes we don't, and it kind of feels like no matter which way we lean, we're always gonna be like the ambiguous I don't know, because it's like we're never like we're not white enough for white spaces, we're not black enough for black spaces, and even like people like us that may not speak Spanish fluently, it's like or fluently enough, we're not Spanish enough for Spanish spaces. So we're just like roaming around in this weird I don't know place, especially growing up. It's like, how do we navigate that?
Well, even like, even on the Spanish thing, like even just like being able to relate back to family. And so you do feel othered at school, you do feel othered at home. And the shame of like, you know, not, I guess, representing, you know, your heritage as well as you can, when really a lot of it is just like out of survival, you know? But yeah, I think it is difficult, and I think you're right, Mykael, in that like I think probably when I turned 13, 14, and is when I realized that I had full authority over my choices, and I was like, I'm gonna make a statement by everything that I do. And at that time, I used that as, you know, I wanted to rebel. Like I wanted to say, like, you have no control over me. I remember sitting at my principal's office and being like, consciously thinking, like, what are you actually going to do to me? Like, at the end of the day, how much power do you actually hold? Like, sure, you can expel me, but at the end of the day, I was never expelled. I actually became a very good student, but like, you start, you know, these are developing years, and you start to question authority,
testing the boundaries.
And so, like 10th grade, you said you found the Lord. What led you there, and how did that play out through the rest of your like? I started
to have I was just getting myself into really scary situations that were pretty like, okay, Dee, like, you're rebelling a lot, but what is this actually measuring up to? I think at one point I was in the back of a cop car, and my mom, I think for a long time. So, I mean, again, we were immigrants. The path to citizenship, you can get it after you're a permanent resident for 5 years, but then after that, it costs a lot of money. Like, and at that time, I was a green card kid, and I remember my mom like always instilling in me like, you have to be very careful because you have a green card, and if you get in trouble, like you could risk citizenship, you could risk permanent residency. That was just something that like this fear that was instilled in us a lot. So I remember like finally I was in the back of a cop car crying because this thing had been told to me that like,
wow,
my space in this country wasn't secure. And so I remember sitting in that cop car being like, what if I get deported and I'm throwing it all away because I wanted to just go out and drink one night with, So that multiple things like that in my life started to happen where finally I just started asking around and just looking around in my circles or outside of my circle, trying to find like just a space I was just started seeking. I found myself seeking. I think it was probably the Lord, the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And so eventually I found somebody that I loved the way that she was living, and I had seen transformation in her life, and I reached out and she invited me to a youth group, and that ended up being where I found the Lord. So a pretty classic youth group salvation story.
Hey, Jesus turned it all around.
Yes.
Brother, hit me one of those, DJ Mykael. I'm just kidding.
Oh, nah. Well, we're gonna put a pin in that. I'm loving where this is going.
do.
Yeah.
And if I'm being honest, like no cameras involved, I'm getting to know a lot about you, and I think we're more alike than anything. So
I
really
love
appreciating
that.
this
I need to
moment.
hear more.
This is the 116 Life, Channel 154, Sirius XM on Holy Culture Radio. I'm your boy, DJ Mykael V, with my amazing brother,
Ace Harris.
and we'll be back. All right. Yo, what's good, y'all? This is the 116 Life with your boy, DJ Mykael V.
Yeah.
Channel 154,
Yeah.
Sirius XM, Holy Culture Radio, with my amazing boy
Ace Harris.
and my amazing guest, our amazing guest,
Yeah.
Miss Dee Diaz.
Thank you for
Deanna.
having me.
So we were talking about your coming to Jesus moment, how you found the Lord. You were rebelling and you were realizing that you needed to make a turn. You saw someone's life that was really modeling Christ, and you was like, hey, that looks cool. I want to join that. So you said, quote, a classic youth salvation story.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I've heard people say that before too, but I don't want to discount like the church really, like, I think sometimes the cool cliques of Christian hip hop, we be kind of poking holes at the youth group culture.
Yeah.
But the youth group culture is transformational.
It's how I got where I am.
Yeah.
I mean,
it is.
yeah.
It is. I think it's really easy. You're right. It's really easy to like want to throw a little bit of shade because there were just problematic parts of it. But at the end of the day, like, I would not have found Jesus if it hadn't been for the very cool youth group trying to be relevant during that time.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
Legit.
Like,
The like maybe awkward, try too hard youth pastor or youth or cringe Christian. I mean, look, I think that you're right. A lot of people have led to the Lord through that. And so, I mean, you're in high school. I'm sure, obviously, you graduate, and I'm assuming college. Or tell me, like, I mean, you're the SVP of marketing and digital at Reach Records. I've been at. Come on, man.
Talk
that talk. Latino woman, you're amazing, killing it. I've been at Reach for 6 years. You've been here pretty much as long as I've been here, and I've literally watched you like ascend the professional like influential ladder. Like, how'd you get here? Walk us through sophomore year to Christ to music. What happened?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a very specific time. So I became a believer, and I remember like very early on, just really wanting to give my life to Jesus and also just like live a life of purpose. And so really very quick transformation. And then, graduated high school and stuck around, very close by to the church that I was saved at, but also was going to school at the same time, studying communications. And I don't know if you guys felt this in your communities, but I feel like there was a time of like the late 2000s, early 2010s, where it was like, if you became a believer, you like either were called into ministry or called into like being a graphic designer or some type of like creative.
Oh
Did you
yeah,
know- like you
yeah.
know,
I was in that.
period?
I was in that. Yeah.
You know that
was it,
period?
two
Like
paths.
everybody in my circle was like, I'm interning to be a pastor, or I'm interning to be a worship leader, or
Yeah.
I'm interning. I mean, your circles at that point, you probably like were pretty integrated into the music.
Yeah, I
Right?
mean, I'm obviously like a lot older than y'all, so and in my experience, it's just there was no paid positions in the black church. You couldn't.
There were no paid positions, and everybody was just working for free at the church at that point.
The volunteer base was
All the
volunteering.
millennials my age just gave hours and hours in the white church. 'cause
Free labor.
I was in the white church at the time. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Exploiting college
we
kids.
can, yo,
Yes.
we can do a whole
Yeah.
segue
So
on-
sorry, but
yeah.
that is sorry.
So no, go. So you didn't want to go one of them. You didn't want to go down those paths, so you did like.
Oh, so I did. So yeah, I was like, I stayed very connected. Very much did that. Like interned at the church, worked as worked in youth ministry, and it
Okay.
was wonderful. By the way, like.
Sure. This is like early 20s vibes.
Yeah, like all throughout college,
Okay.
very much involved in this church.
Where'd you go to college at?
University of Colorado, Denver.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, so not the Boulder campus that everybody knows, but I was in the city campus.
Shout out Deion Sanders, baby.
Yeah. So where was I? ADHD
No, so like
yeah, so that it was like
career-wise?
during that time in ministry is when I would have come across Lecrae
Okay.
and
you were like
and
this, liked it or did you like that?
Yeah, I mean, at first I was a little bit skeptical, but I ended up loving it.
Why were you
and,
skeptical?
The
Christian
same
rap?
reason that everybody was. Yeah, like 2009, I was like, "What is this?" You know, and I had like a weird relationship with hip hop at the time. Like I was like, I loved I hated mainstream music at that time because
Very Paramore vibes, yeah.
I mean, I was just like into
Oh.
like more underground. It's stupid.
So I feel like you have like a
I loved
contrarian.
Tech Nine. Imagine going.
Hey, yo.
Imagine going.
Immortal Technique.
Yeah. Imagine I had to have that moment where I was like, I have to take Immortal Technique off my music.
Bro.
Tech Nine,
She's like, yeah, I love D12 and Slaughterhouse. I
love
love Joe
Jesus.
Budden.
yes. So
wow, Tech Nine. That's
yeah,
crazy. Like
I mean, but I was like that rebellious.
Yeah.
sure.
We also had a very strong. I don't want to get into this. Actually, I don't want to get into this. But suburbs of Denver, Colorado, it'll do something to you. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, we've
So-
seen on the global stage. I mean, that's a whole
Oh, yeah.
Columbine. I mean, we can.
But like, I think that's honestly like I think I've always just had a propensity towards independent, more
Sure.
niche,
Sure.
which I think
Yeah.
also is eventually why I started to appreciate Lecrae so much
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
because I realized like, oh, this is a movement that is more niche, and
Sure.
you guys are building a community around it. And then also as a Latina in the Christian world, also very much in youth ministry, so you're gonna come across Lecrae at that time.
Sure.
Fell in love with the movement, and very quickly, like, I loved to be just like the person in my group of friends that like was in the know of what everybody was interested in.
Yeah.
And I think that just gives you a propensity to like become some type of super fan.
Sure.
So I think about this a lot. I'm like, being a super, like, you get made fun of like growing up for being
Yeah.
like too obsessed
Of a
on certain
fan.
things.
Okay.
But I'm like, being a super fan actually like got me the job that I have now. So I'm like, if you love something and
Do
you
it.
genuinely care about it, like rep it and research it and become about it. I mean, I didn't have like the socioeconomic standing to just like buy every 116 thing. I wasn't like that 116 fan, but I loved being in the know of what was happening. And so, sorry, this is a very long tangent to your question or answer to your
No,
question.
this is great.
but-
We're learning your.
That's the whole
Yeah.
point. We're
I
learning
think
about
it's
you.
helpful for people to know the people who actually work the records that y'all be listening to. These are not like sometimes like random people. These are people that had an intersection of faith and
Yes.
culture and life, and they're bringing it in that same passion for the music and the artist
Yeah.
is coming to work every day.
Yes.
That's what's behind these records. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So at what point did you like get to reach records? Like,
Yes. So thank you for bringing us back
Yeah.
on track. So yeah, during that time that I interned, I also, became super interested in graphic design, became a eventually got a job at my church as like the creative director.
Doing
Okay.
Doing all that
Hard.
stuff.
Ministry creative director.
Ministry, yeah.
That's
See,
hard.
I did it.
Flyers,
graphic
youth
designer.
program.
Oh, yeah.
That's super
did
hard.
all
That's
the
dope.
things.
Yeah.
And Reach was very much my inspiration for that. So I did that for a while. Graduated college, stayed at that communications job, and then eventually.
At the church, the communications job at the church?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then eventually I interned at an agency for a while.
Okay, that was dope.
And learned about,
A marketing
developing
agency?
a brand. Yeah, it was like digital marketing agency for our clients were like real estate clients. So it wasn't anything music related. But it learned me, about email sequencing
Sure.
and automations and advertising.
Those skills.
And during that time is when I started to kind of dream about like what was next for me. I think I thought for a long time that like it was going to be something related to ministry, and I kind of had this moment when I was 24 years old that I realized like, oh, I might not be in vocational ministry, and that's okay. Let me just like look at what my life, like where I'm at, what my skills are, and let me just start dreaming about what I actually want to do.
Yeah.
And it was that time that I started to pray about, Reach. I actually like
Really? You had reached on the prayer. That's amazing.
Yeah, I actually, yeah. So then
I think you had applied for certain other positions before.
I
too.
applied for two different positions before the digital coordinator position.
Yeah.
I did the same.
Really?
I applied for the A&R position a year before
I had no
got
idea.
it, and I didn't essentially get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I never.
So
they never even reached out to me. They never saw my. I was just a pile of names.
I think it's cool for people to hear like perseverance and passion for what
It's
you
a great
actually.
character trait.
Yeah, like you got made fun of in school for you can get made fun of as a younger person for being like a super fan, but like you said, your super fandom led to you following your dream, which led you to your. This is not the end all be all, but to a space where I feel like God was kind of designing for you to be in. You know what I'm saying? Like
100%.
it's not by accident that you're here. It's like God was like, I got you. So so tell me about the moment that you got to Reach, and like what did you see when you got here? And feel free to jump in too, Mykael. Like I don't know if you remember seeing when she got here, but how was that experience? Like you got to Reach, you a fan of the label, you've been pumping the music, and you actually like get hired on. Like how'd that feel, and what transpired after that?
I mean, it was a humbling moment because you pray about certain things, and I think it was one of the first times in my life where I was like, I think I want to do this, and then just everything started to fall into place, and it was just a very surreal moment. I remember walking into my interview with Katie and Chad, and I had been following Katie on Instagram for a while because I think Lecrae had tagged her on something at one point. And I think I mentioned this earlier, but like as a creative director at my church, I used to look at Reach a lot for like marketing inspiration. And so when I saw Katie was like over marketing, I started to follow her, and I quickly realized that there was this young woman, she's not much older than me, doing marketing at this record label that I really appreciate what they're doing, and really look up to them. And I remember it was just like this moment where I realized that was probably the first moment that I really started to think like, why not me?
That's fire.
Yeah, so
it
was a surreal moment walking in and being like, oh, I'm interviewing to work under Katie. I didn't realize that. So when I got the job, I realized like, you're right. It had been God kind of orchestrating this in my life through just even like representation of another woman my age.
How important was it that for you as a woman to see another woman in the business sense leading?
Yeah.
How important was that for you? Like,
I mean, it was a game changer. I think, when I had the moment that I think it had been like maybe a year and a half since I had learned who Katie was.
Yeah.
It had been like maybe a year and a half after that it clicked that I wanted to pursue a career at Reach Records, which even at that time I wouldn't have thought it was a career. I just, was exploring. So it was a big part of who I am now is wanting to communicate how accessible the entertainment industry is. Like how accessible great jobs are for people that
sure.
The three of us, like for immigrant generation, first generation, second generation. I mean, Katie is, for me, Katie was the representation of a millennial woman, in her early 20s doing this job. And for me, that was really important to know that it was possible.
Because you were a college grad. I know you went to school, right, Mykael?
No, I didn't go to college.
I mean, but look at like you guys are. I mean, not first generation. You are an immigrant. First, you was born. He was born here.
Yeah, I'm first generation.
Okay. I don't know how y'all's parents' filter was or expectation was with education, but you guys are working full time in music. Like, how does that feel, Dee? Like, to look back, was mom like yes, or like I don't know about this? Like, how did that play out?
She really pushed me to go to school. There was a moment that, like when I was in ministry, that I thought that I was going to drop out of school and only do ministry, and my mom was very much like, absolutely not. Oh, okay. She was reluctant at first when I told her about music, but at that point, I also had been like, working for free for several years, so I think she was just really proud of me that I was actually pursuing.
You were working for your rewards in heaven, Dee.
Yeah, I mean, she always, but you're right. I mean, she wanted me to pursue my master's degree. She wanted me to do something probably a little bit more traditional, and we still have those conversations all the time about like a corporate job.
This is a corporate job. It's a lot more fun.
Yeah. It's definitely corporate to me, I'll tell you that.
Really? That's true.
You feel
I
like
could
that?
see that.
Yeah. Like, I think when I first started working here, I was like, yo, Dee, like, we had a couple conversations where it was like it was I appreciate you loving me in that way, because she was very much like, hey, I know how you are, right?
Whoa, the youth pastor shoulder tap.
I know how.
Hey, pull aside.
She's like, yo, like she cared, she loved and cared for me in a way. She was like, hey, I know how you are. I want you to be who you are, but there has to be a medium with who you are and how we run things and where you fit in that piece. And that's how you fit into the cog of the machine. And it was one of the best conversations.
That's amazing. And I think...
Yeah, honestly, I think you just articulated that way better than I did in that conversation.
I think that's amazing. That's an amazing Venn diagram of a metaphor that I think tangibly the people tuning in would probably want to hear practically what that looks like on a day-to-day. Like the important things that, you've touched, Dee, like the things that you've cultivated, developed, built at Reach Records, and I think it'll be good
and
to
push
dive
for too.
And, and advocate and push for, because Dee's gonna let you know how she's thinking for sure, which is a great superpower of yours. So we're gonna get back into this after this segment. This is the 116 Life on Holy Culture Radio, Sirius Channel 154. I'm your host Ace Harris with my man
DJ Mykael V
and the amazing Princess.
Oh, Diana.
Dee Diaz, you know what I'm saying, in the building. We'll be back after this, y'all. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is the 116 Life on Holy Culture Radio, Sirius Channel 154. 154. I'm your adult host, Ace Harris. Here is my
juvenile host,
juvenile
DJ Mykael V.
And the amazing Dee Diaz. So we had a question, and that I think came about as on the break, and I mean, people. I feel like in the music business, they don't really understand what the people who work in the marketing and operational and digital side, not that they don't respect. I think there's just like this ethereal assumption of like, people are just
they don't know how much work it takes.
They do. They really don't. And I think it'd be good for people to hear like, what do you do on the day, on the day-to-day, Dee? What does it look like?
It's a great question. I mean, every day is different, and are you talking like today?
Yeah,
I guess
because I feel like
what does
I've
the average
so
day
many
look like for
different
Dee?
ages at Reach, or eras at Reach, I guess. But in this current era of my life at Reach, right now, overseeing a larger team than I have in the past. That's actually
doing a great job, by the way.
Thank you. You too. We have an amazing team of marketing, digital, and creative here, and so a lot of my day-to-day is actually just checking in one-on-one with the team, just making sure that we're aligned, that everybody has what they need, and the support that they need. It's a lot of emails, looking through timelines, writing out pitches. A lot of my job is pitching. And then it's also like looking at positioning too, where, depending on the artist, like, where do we want to position this artist for this release? What are different goals and objectives that we're looking at? A lot of executive meetings, artist meetings, a lot of scrolling on TikTok, honestly.
Yo, talk about it. Like,
Yeah.
why is that important?
Well,
like,
I think honestly, anytime that there's a new, well, and TikTok isn't new anymore. So, but I think like understanding apps as a consumer is extremely important. So I think that was something that like in 2020 I started to really do is like, yeah, just understand
Right.
like if this is where music is taking off, let me sit here and see like what are consumers looking at, what are the trends that are taking off, and finding inspiration in different industries
For sure.
and seeing how we can creatively, you know, marry those ideas with like our artist objectives and goals. So I think, yeah, just staying on top of trends. Instagram, same thing. They have a lot of new features.
you
that
be
I'm
killing it. Yeah,
constantly-
y'all team be killing on that.
Thank
On
you.
the Reels
Thank you.
activation. So earlier, Mykael V had mentioned like how your wisdom and pulling them to the side about how things there's a certain decorum corporately that I guess he says that we function in, that maybe I didn't even realize it. For what he's talking about, why is that important in your day to day in terms of like and what you do? What kind of like what's the importance of having like that quote unquote corporate structure and when we're kind of laxed compared to like corporate
Very
America?
lax, very lax for sure.
I think we are
But
lax.
why is it important operating? Like what's that look like and why is it
like
important?
the
corporate
more like
Yeah,
the corporate structure.
structure.
Just
Especially
so funny
running a
because
digital.
I don't feel like we're corporate at all, so I don't like using that word. But
Okay.
but I think
For the
it's,
music, for music and creative people.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think structure is kindness in in certain aspects. Like you want to make sure that there is structure because if not, like things will fall through the cracks.
You said structure is kindness.
Yeah.
That's a bar.
I think, you know, for example, like I'm not naturally a structured person. So that's why I said like I think I try to schedule my one-on-ones on different days. So I had to set up like a time, and I know that at 11 a.m. on most days I'm meeting with somebody from my team. That's a structure and a discipline that I'm setting for myself because it makes sense that everybody on my team is getting equal time to process anything that they need to process, to problem solve, to ask me any questions. And also I just love to, I love seeing people win. Like for me,
For sure.
it's life-giving to develop people. Not that, you know, so
Yeah.
so I think like that's, and then structure like also for the art, like I think it just makes sure it creates an opportunity to make sure that every release is getting the
Structure is kindness.
the
that's
amount
great.
of time that it
That's a
needs.
bar. I feel like.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
you.
go
I'm sorry.
ahead, bro.
Well, I was gonna say, you play such a big role as a Latina in the music industry, and you've pushed and presented so many things that have come to fruition, like the Spanish project, a lot of RG stuff, a lot of AJ Callejero connections and Latino connections within the music industry, and just being a Latina who came from an immigrant single mother from another country. Tell me, how does that influence the decisions you make in Reach, and why you push so hard for the visibility within the culture?
Yeah. I think, well, first I do want to shout out Ben and Lecrae, because they just create a culture within our company where if you are passionate about something, they'll champion you 100%, and let you run off with, you know, crazy ideas. And so I really appreciate that. Like that is something that I've been passionate about, and I'm not the only one in this building that's passionate about it. Lecrae is passionate about it. And so I'm just thankful that we even have a space where we can challenge and bring new ideas, and they'll champion those.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we came in, you and I had a lot of conversations, Ace, about, I mean, I think I came in 2017, so that was just like after the Despacito moment. Latin music was really taking off. So I think as at Reach Records at 116, like we, the DNA is to really tap in where culture is really moving, and
Yes,
also like
absolutely, yeah.
have a footprint in ways that really, like, we want to have influence within we want to build community within marginalized groups.
Sure.
And so I think, there was like Latin music was clearly popping off, and we realized, I'm Latina, Mykael, you're Latino, and I remember you and I having multiple conversations about how there was an entire market of Latinos that were 116 fans that we could serve and give them this, like, I think if you look at the Sin Vergüenza, which was the Latin project that we released in 2020, shout out Cardiac, shout out Ace.
Shout out No Apologies.
But that entire, the creative direction was literally like, it was a Sin Vergüenza flag, which was like unashamed in Spanish. It was a play on words for a lot of different reasons. And then we took that flag and we recreated it within like in all of these different countries.
Yeah.
And that was because we wanted this moment for people that had rocked with the Unashamed movement for so many years to like have their moment in the Unashamed culture and wave their flag.
For sure.
So to answer your question, I mean, it's exciting for me. I have a personal attachment to it. And I also, just for the sake of the gospel and the sake of representation and the sake of the movement.
That's what I'm talking about.
This is a global movement. It's always been a global movement.
Christianity is a global movement.
It is a global movement. And I think we did it. We want to do it more in the Latin space. We're doing it with Limo Blaze. There's so many more opportunities to tap into
I remember Unashamed Tour 2019, right before the pandemic, which is, man, that tour was what a great tour. So much momentum. And I remember, is that the Orlando show?
Are you talking about the funky or?
I can't remember, but so at one of the shows, I remember going with a certain expectation of what the audience would look like. Mm-hmm. I remember getting to the show, pulling up and being like, yo, the Latino community is in the building. No, they are the crowd, essentially.
Yeah.
And I remember it stuck with me. I was like, yo, this is like, sometimes the chatter around our spaces is that it super serves the evangelical youth group community, which it 100%. Does. Thank y'all. Keep streaming.
Please.
Real spill. I'm not here to marginalize y'all. We great, but not limit the audience to that segment. And I remember that sparked my just passion and talking to me like, we got to figure out how to. These people are uno says they here. They forget like bringing them in. They're already there. Are they being taken care of? That was my question. Or served is a better word. So I feel like having you here just helped champion that internally, where we were kind of like, you kind of was like very vocal about that. And I thought that your influence on here really changed just our mindset to be open. You know what I'm saying? Talk about a project that you've touched. Doesn't have to be just a Latin project. Anything that you can like speak to a time where you like had a project that you really felt like you had to fight for, and it really changed things here, or song or album or something that's like a staple Dee Diaz touch point. You know what I'm saying?
Oh no! That's like so on the spot.
I can list a few too, but keep going.
Wait, really? I want to hear what you're.
Okay.
Because I'm like,
that's crazy. How he asked the question and he don't got an answer.
No, I do have an answer.
No, I would. Okay, go ahead.
You want to listen?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I think that one specifically, Dee has been quietly championing a marketing approach to social media internally, like actively championing it, pushing for it, fighting for it. And I feel like even recently, your touch point on the marketing process has been so inclusive of the social media strategy that has literally had real-time results.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about God made a way, What Up RG. I mean, What Up RG, God bless him, one of the most talented people I've ever met. His interaction with social media has always been a little bit of a artistic struggle.
Sure.
And I feel like your leadership has absolutely influenced the way he touched social media with that song, and we've seen real-time results. I mean, can you speak to that?
Thank you for saying that. I mean, a lot of it, like I said earlier, a lot of it comes from scrolling. I mean, it's like, it's really simple, but again, it's like, I feel like the best marketers like understand the consumer at the end of the day. And not that like I understand all of the, not that I can put myself in the shoes of everybody, but I do want to empathize with our audience. And so I think a lot of that was the push for, you know, hey, maybe we don't need to like spend hours and hours and hours and all of this money on a music video, but maybe we just need to like get these performance bits on social media where people are. A lot of that just came from, and it wasn't just me, it's everybody, and it's the entire market. We know that short form content is what's ultimately driving streaming these days. So that has been that's been a pivot that we've been making over the years. With more recently, it's also been just fantastic partners. We have great partners at Meta. We have great partners at TikTok that are extremely helpful in just like educating us also on what's happening, and then also just hiring the right people. I think the best Shannon, honestly, like the best piece of content that we got from RG, in my opinion, for God Made a Way was spearheaded by Shannon. So it's also, we just have a fantastic team to implement those.
That's for sure.
Strategies.
That's amazing. What do you think you want to see? What's something that you want to do in your time here that you feel like we could be, giving the fans, or strategy-wise, the label? What's something that you want to see more of happen that you feel like you could lead in your posts here, like as SVP of digital marketing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunity, not to like chime back to the global stuff, but Holvy's top market, for a couple of his songs is Brazil. If you look at the comments on everything that he's doing, you have so much Portuguese in there. And Brazil's always been a top market for us. And there's just so much opportunity to, I think, scale what we're doing globally. That's honestly what excites me right now. And then I just think we're in a new generation of artists. We're in a new generation of fans. Like the artists that were, the Holvies, the RGs, these are artists that grew up listening to Lecrae, and so it's a new generation. So I get really excited about capturing the hearts of young minds that are, like the 18s, the 20s, the 22-year-olds. We talk about this a lot, but it's like, I mean, I've said this to you. I'm like, I want kids to get 116 tattoos again. That gets exciting. Like, that's exciting to me.
Can we slice that piece and just make that? I think it's a moment, right? Like,
I don't know what we need to do.
You have like a sincere radar and appreciation for the younger demo of our fans, and I think you're looking at them and you're kind of moving the building and the artists to say, hey guys, it's a new crowd out here, and we need to engage this culture, because this message, this music needs to not be something that only stays with the 30-year-olds. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like you move like that. And anything else you want to say, D, before we kind of
Well, I have a question that I think will end this in the sense. D, if you could talk to the 16-year-old you, or to a 16-year-old Latina woman who desires to be in music, what advice would you give yourself / that person to persevere, to attain to where you're at right now?
One, I would say you're gonna encounter a lot in your life that's going to try to cause you to question the authenticity of who Jesus is. And so dive into scripture and know the scripture. Don't just listen to what somebody on a pulpit is telling you, but actually study the scripture and study and be shaped by it, and let that be what grounds you. And then two, I would say God's dreams are just so much greater than yours are. And there are countless possibilities and countless positions for you to pursue, and countless tables that are available for you to sit at, and countless tables that you're able to start yourself as a Latina, and to pursue those and pursue mentorship, and to just always, to learn. And if you don't see representation somewhere, then become that representation and do it passionately, and do it, with humility, and also constantly be pouring into. the generation that's next.
Well said. I mean, I think everything that was amazing. So we just put a pin on it. We're gonna let y'all marinate on that. You know what I'm saying? Thank you so much for rocking with us today, D. This is the 116 Life on Holy Culture Radio, Sirius Channel 154. I'm your host, Ace Harris. It's my man,
DJ Mykael V.
And we'll see y'all next time. Take care.